shape, if shape might be called, that shape had none, distinguishable in member, joint, or limb, or substance might be called, that shadow seemed, for each seemed either black it stood as night, fierce as 10 furies, terrible as hell, and shook a dreadful dart. What seemed his head, the likeliness of a kingly crown, had on. Satan was now at hand, and from his seat the monster moving onwards came as fast, with horrid strides. Hell trembled as he strode. The undaunting feat, what this might be admired, not feared. God and his Son except, created things not valued he nor shunned, and with his disdainful looks thus first began. Whence and what art thou, execrable shape, that darest through grim and terrible advance thy miscreated front, aworth my way to yonder gates, though them I mean to pass, that be assured, without leaving asked of thee. Retire or taste thy folly, and learn by proof, hell-born, not to contend with the spirits of heaven. To whom the goblin full of wrath replied, Art thou the traitor angel? Art thou he who first broke peace in heaven and faith? Till then unbroken, and in proud rebellious arms drew after him the third part of heaven's sons, conjured against the highest, for which both thou and they outcast from God, and here condemned, to waste eternal days in woe and pain? And reckon thou thyself with spirits in heaven, hell doomed, and breast defiance here and scorn, where I reign king, and to enrage thee more, thy king and lord? Back to thy punishment, false fugitive, and to the speed add wings, lest with the whip of scorpions I pursue thy lingering, or with one stroke of the dart strange horrors seize thee, and pangs unfelt before. So spake this grisly terror, and in shape, so speaking and so threatening, grew tenfold, more dreadful and deformed. On the other side, incensed with indignation, Satan stood, unterrified, and looked, and like a comet burned, that fires in length of bristling, huge, that's a hard word to say. Offici. It's a constellation. The serpent bearer. Ophiuchus, huge in the Arctic sky, and from his horrid hair shakes pestilence and war. Each at the head leveled his deadly aim, their fatal hands, no second stroke intend, and such a frown each cast at the other, as when two black clouds, with heaven artillery fraught, come rattling on over the Caspian, then stood front to front, hovering a space, till winds, with the signal blow, to join their darker encounter in mid-air. So frowned the mighty combatants, that hell grew darker at their frown, so matched they stood, for never but once more than either like, to meet so great a foe. And now great deeds had been achieved, whereof all hell had rung, had not the snaky sorceress that sat fast by hell gate and kept the fatal key, risen, and with hideous outcry rushed between. O Father, what intends thy hand? She cried. Against thy only Son, what fury, O Son, possessed thee to bend that mortal dart against thy Father's head? And knows for whom? For him who sits above and laughs, the while at the ordained he drudge to execute whatever he wrath, where he calls justice bids, his wrath, which one day will destroy ye both. She spake, and at her words the hellish past forbore, and these to her Satan returned. So strange thy outcry, and thy words so strange, thou interposed, that my sudden hand prevented spares to tell thee yet by deeds, what if it intends, till first I know of thee, what thing thou art, what double formed, and why in this infernal vale first met thou callest me Father, and that phantasm callest me Son. I know thee not, nor even till now sight more detestable than him in thee. To whom thus the portress of Hell Gate replied, Hast thou forgotten me then? And do I seem now in thine eye so foul, once deemed so fair in heaven, when at the assembly and in sight of all seraphim, with thee combined in bold conspiracy against heaven's king, all on a sudden miserable pain? Surprise thee, dim thee thine eyes, and dizzy swim in darkness, while thy head flames thick and fast through forth, till on the left side opening wide, likest to thee in shape and countenance bright, then shining heavenly fair, a goddess armed, out of thy head I sprung, amazement seized, and the holiest of heaven back they recoiled afraid at first, and called me sin, and for what a sign portentous held me, but familiar grown I pleased, and with attractive grace won the most adverse, thee chiefly, who full oft thyself in me, thy perfect image viewing, becomest enamored, and such joy thou tookst with me in secret, that my womb conceived a growing burden. Meanwhile war arose, and fields were fought in heaven, wherein remained, for what could be else, to our almighty foe, clear victory, to our part loss and rout, through all the Ephraim down they felled, driven headlong from the pitch of heaven down into the deep. In this general fall, I also, at which time this powerful key into my hand was given, with charge to keep these gates forever shut, which none can pass without my opening. Pensive here I sat, but long not I sat not, till my womb, pregnant by thee, and now excessive grown, prodigious motion felt and rueful throes. At last this odious offspring, whom thou seest, thine own begotten, breaking violent way, tore through my entrails, that with fear and pain distorted all my nether shapes, thus grew, transformed, but my inbred enemies forth issued, brandished this fatal dart. Made to destroy, I fled and cried out, death. Hell trembled at this hideous name, and I sighed. From all her cave and back resounded death. I fled, but he pursued, though more it seems, inflamed with lust and rage, and swifter far, me overtook, his mother all dismayed, and in embraces forcible and foul, endangering with me that of that rape begot these yelling monsters that with ceaseless cries surrounding me, and thou sawest, hourly conceived, and hourly born with sorrow infinite. And to me, for when they list into the womb that bred them, they return, and howl and gnaw my bowels, their repast, and their bursting forth, afresh with conscious terrors vex me round. That rest or intermission none I find. Before mine eyes in opposite sits grim death, my son and foe, who sets them on, and me, his parent, would full soon devour, for want of other prey, but that he knows his end with mine involved, and knows that I should prove a bitter morsel, and his bane, whether that shall be, and so fate pronounced. But thou, O Father, I forewarn thee, shun his deadly arrow, nor neither vainly hope to the invulnerable in those bright arms, though tempered heavenly for the mortal dint, save he who reigns above, none can resist. She finished, and then subtle fiend his lore soon learned, now milder, and thus answered smooth, dear daughters, since thou claimest me for thy sire, and my fair son here showest me the dear pledge of dalliance had with thee in heaven, and joys thus sweet, now sad to mention, though dire change befallen us unforeseen, unthought of, known, I come no enemy, but to set free from out this dark and dismal house of pain, both him and thee, and all the heavenly host of spirits that on our just pretense armed fell with us from on high. From then I go, this uncouth errant soul, and one for all myself exposed with lonely steps to tread the unfounded deep, and through the void immense to search with wandering quest a place foretold should be, and by concurring signs ere now created vast and round, a place of bliss in the peerless of heaven, and therein placed a race of upstart creatures to supply perhaps our vacant room, though more removed, lest heaven surcharged with potent multitude might hap to move new broils, be this or aught Then this more secret now designed, I haste to know, and this once known shall soon return, and bring ye to the place where thou and death shall dwell at ease, and up and down unseen wings silently the buxom air embalm. With odors there ye shall be fed and filled. Immeasurably all things shall be your prey. He ceased for both seemingly highly pleased, and death grinned horribly a ghastly smile. To hear his famine should be filled, and blessed his maw, destined to that good hour, no less rejoiced. His mother bowed, and thus bespake her sire, the key of this infernal pit by due, and by command of heaven, all-powerful king, I keep, by him forbidden to unlock, these adamantine gates against all force. Death ready stands to interpose his dart, fearless to be overmatched by living might. But what we owe, I and to his commands above, who hate me, and hath hither thus thrust me down into the gloom of Tartarus profound, to sit in hateful office here confined, inhabitant of heaven and heavenly born, here in perpetual agony and pain, with terrors and with clamors compassed round of mine, my own brood, that on our bowels feed. Thou art my father, thou art my author, thou, my being gavest me, whom should I obey, but thee whom follow? Thou wilt bring me soon to that new world of light and bliss among the gods, whose live at ease, where I shall reign at thy right hand voluptuous, as beseemed thy daughter and thy darling, without end. Thus saying, from her side the fatal key, sad instruments of all her woe she took, and toward the gates rolling her bestial train. Forthwith the huge portcullis high updrew, which but herself, not all the Stygian powers, could once have moved. Then in the keyhole turns the intricate wards, and every bolt and bar of massy iron or solid rock with ease unfastens on a sudden open fly. With imperious recoil and jarring sound, the infernal doors, as on their hinges grate, harsh thunder, and the lowest bottom shook Erebus. She opened, but to shut excelled her power. The gates wide open stood, that with extended wings and bannered host, under spread ensigns, marching might pass through, with horse and chariots ranked in loose array. So wide they stood, and like a furnace mouth, cast forth redounding smoke and ruddy flame. Before their eyes in sudden view appear the secrets of hoary deep, and a dark, illimitable ocean without bound. So an unlimited ocean, without dimension, where length, breadth, and height, and time and place are lost, where eldest night and chaos, ancestors of nature, hold eternal anarchy amidst the noise of endless wars, and by confusion stand. For hot, cold, moist, and dry, four champions fierce strive here for mastery, and to battle bring their ebon atoms. They around the flag of each his faction, in their several clans, light-armed or heavy, sharp, smooth, swift or slow, swarm populous or unnumbered as the sands of Barca or Cyrene torrid soil, levied to side with the warring winds and poise their lighter wings. To whom these most adhere, he rules a moment. Chaos, umpire sits, and by decision more embroils the fray, by which he reigns next to him, arbiter. Chances govern all. Into this wild abyss, the womb of nature, and perhaps her grave, of neither sea, nor shore, nor air, nor fire, but all these in the pregnant causes mixed confusedly, and which thus must ever fight, unless the Almighty Maker them ordain his dark materials to create more words. Into the wild abyss the wary fiend stood on the brink of hell, and looked a while, pondering his voyage, for no narrow frith he had to cross, nor was his ear less peeled with noises loud and ruinous, to compare great things with small, than when Bologna storms with all her battering engines bent to raise with some capital city, or less than if less than if this frame of heaven were falling, and these elements in mutiny had from axle torn the steadfast earth, and at last his sailboard vans he spread for flight in the surging smoke, unlifted spurs the ground, thence many a league, as in a cloudy chair ascending rides, audacious, but with the seat soon failing, meets a vast vacuity, all unawares, fluttering his pennons, vain plumb, down he drops, 10,000 fathoms deep. And to this hour, down had been falling, had not by this ill chance, the strong rebuff of some tumultuous cloud, instinct with fire, and neither hurried him, as many miles aloft, that fury stayed, quenched in a boggy Syrtis, nor neither sea nor god dry land, nigh foundered on he fares, treading the crude consistence, half on foot, half flying, behooves him now both oar and sail, as when the griffin through the wilderness, with wing course o'er hill or moory dale, pursues the armisman, whom by stealth had from the wakeful custody purloined the guarded gold. So eagerly the fiend, o'er the bog or steep, though straight, rough, dense, or rare, with head, hands, wings, or feet pursues his way, and swims or sinks or wades or creeps or flies. At length a universal hubbub wild, of stunning sounds and voices all confused, borne through the hollow dark assault his ears, with loudest vehemence, thither he piles, undaunted to meet their whatever power or spirit of the nethermost abyss might in their noise reside, of whom to ask which way the nearest coast or darkness lies, bordering on light, when straight behold the throne of chaos, his dark pavilion spread wide on the wasteful deep, with him enthroned, sat sable vested, night, eldest of things, the consort of his reign, and by them stood Orcus and Attis, and the dreaded name of Demogorgon, rumor next and chance, and tumult, and confused all embroiled, and discord with 1,000 various mouths, the whom Satan turning boldly thus, ye powers and spirits of these nethermost abyss, chaos and ancient night, I came no spy, with purpose to explore or to disturb the secrets of your realm, but by constraint, wandering this darksome desert, as my way lies through your spacious empire up to light. Alone and without guide, half lost, I seek what readiest path leads where your gloomy bounds, confined with heaven, or if some other place from your dominion won, the ethereal king, possess lately, thither to arrive, I travel this profound, direct to my course, directed no means, recompense it brings, to you behoof, if I that region lost, all usurpation, thence expelled, reduce to her original darkness, and your sway, which is my present journey, and once more erect this standard there of ancient night, yours the advantage all, mine the revenge. Thus Satan, and him thus the anarch old, with faltering speech and visage incomposed, answered, I know thee, stranger, who thou art, that might leading angel who of late made head against heaven's king, though overthrown, I saw and heard for such a numerous host, fled not in silence, though the frightening deep, with ruin upon ruin, rout on rout, confusion worse confounded, and heaven's gates poured out by millions her victorious bands pursuing, I upon my frontiers here keep residence, if all I can will serve, that little which is left is so to defend, encroaching on still, though our intestine broils, weakening the scepter of old night, first hell, your dungeons stretching far and wide beneath, now lately heaven and earth, another world, hung o'er my realm, linked in a golden chain, to that side of heaven from whence your legions fell. If that way be your walk, you have not fear, so much the nearer danger, go and speed, havoc and spoil and ruin are my gain. He ceased, and Satan stayed not to reply, but glad that now his sea should find a shore with fresh alacrity, and force renewed, springs upward like a pyramid of fire into the wild expanse, and though the shock of frightening elements on all sides round, environed wins his way, hardest beset, and more endangered than when Argo passed through Bosporus betwixt the justling rocks, or when Ulysses on the labored shun Charybdis, and by the other whirlpool steered, so that he with difficulty and labor hard moved on with difficulty and labor but he once passed soon after when man fell, strange alteration, sin and death amain, following his track, such with the will of heaven, paved after him a broad and a beaten way over the dark abyss, whose boiling gulf tamely endured a bridge of wondrous length, from hell continued, reaching the utmost orb of this frail world, by which the spirits perverse, with easy intercourse pass to and fro, to tempt or punish mortals, except whom God and good angels guard by special grace. But now at last the sacred influence of light appears, and from the walls of heaven shoots far into the bosom of dim night a glimmering dawn. Here nature first begins her farthest verge, and chaos to retire, as from her utmost works a broken foe, with less hostile din, that Satan with less toil, and now with ease, wafts on the calmer waves by dubious light, and like a weather-beaten vessel holds gladly the port, though shroud and tackle torn, or in the emptier waste, resembling air, weigh his spring wings at leisure to behold far off the ethereal heaven, extending wide in circuit, undetermined square or round, with octal towers and battlement adorned of living sapphire, once his native seat, and fast by hanging in a gold chain, this pendant world in a bigness as a star, of smallest magnitude close by the moon, thither full fraught with mischievous revenge, accursed, and in a cursed hour he hies. So what is it to go to hell? You go to hell and back again. What is it to wage war against heaven? What is it to kill the things that you hate? And as a cardinal. And what is it to kill the things that you love? I look at this disturbed ground beside me, and yeah, it is disturbing, and I'm surely not going to touch it. I really don't know what to say about it. You know, it could be a pet grave, and I'm not a forensics expert. Yeah, and it's very synchronous and weird that I'm here especially to read this, because the hell of humanity is just below the surface, isn't it? What lies beneath and what's under the skin. I would love, my birthday's coming up, for the people that I love to show up, because I spent my birthday last year alone. Absolutely alone. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that my life is shit. It doesn't mean that I'm shit. Imagine being that character, the observer in Paradise Lost, that goes and sees the battle between war and hell. A war of hell and heaven. That's the battle, I guess you would say, in all of us. What do you choose? I choose life.